Okay, welcome everyone. You're all very welcome to CITA's online regional week. So we're into day 4 of the week's activities, and it promises to be another very engaging session. So welcome on board. So my own name is Sean Carroll, and I'm a lecturer and the BIM Technologies Coordinator here at MTU. So I'll be sharing with you some of the programs we have on offer in a BIM sphere with you today. We're also joined by Mark Whitehead, who's Head of Construction at Cpap Modular, who'll be giving a presentation on a hybrid modular construction. We also have Fahy, who's Commercial Director, and Darragh, who's Design Manager of Horizon Offsite. And both and Darragh will be giving a presentation on light gauge steel offsite solutions from concept to site. We also have Anna Boch and Michael Martin of HSE Estates, who will be giving a presentation on Capital and Estates digital transformation journey. So I guess in line with previous events, we will let all presenters speak here initially, and then there will be an opportunity for a Q&A at the end of today's session. So as chair, I guess, I'm going to keep a close eye on the chat, so feel very free to post questions to the chat as the presentations progress, and we'll pick up on your questions towards the end for an engaging session, hopefully, okay? So I'd like to kick off proceedings, I guess, with just my own presentation. So I guess for anyone that mightn't be aware, we are now in fact a Munster Technological University. So CIT and TRI-IT have joined forces. So it's a very exciting time for both staff and students alike to be part of this development. So just a quick overview of my own presentation. So I'd like to discuss with you our existing Level 8 program. That's our Bachelor of Science in BIM. And we have 2 new offerings. We have 2 new Level 9 programs. So we have a postgraduate diploma in science in building, information modeling, and digital AEC. And we also have a Level 9 offering as a Master's of Science in Building, Information Modeling, and Digital AEC. So I'd like to maybe just explain the differences between those programs as there are new offerings. So I guess just to kick things off, that existing program, our most successful program to date, our Bachelor of Science in Building, Information Modeling, and Management, which is a Level 8 award. It's a 60 credit award. It's delivered over 2 years on a part-time basis. So there's 4 semesters to this award, okay? So it's very much based at industry-based professionals. The pillars of this award, or the pillars of the program, semester 1 is BIM Technologies. Semester 2 is referred to as Strategic BIM and M. And we have semesters 3 and 4, which is Applied BIM and M, okay? So again, I guess the prerequisites to enter this program is an existing Level 7 award in an architecture, engineering, and construction profession. So for people with a Level 7 award, they can come onto this program and achieve a Level 8 award in BIM. So I guess central to anything you do in BIM, I guess, is your common data environment. So from a very early stage in all of our BIM programs or BIM offerings, we get students familiar with the concept of a common data environment. And here at MTU, we use BIM 360. So I just have a short recording here of, once students come in, I guess we quickly get them up to speed with BIM tools, such as authoring tools, such as Autodesk Revit. So I just have an example here of some students' work who have uploaded onto BIM 360. So it's great for me as an educator. I can see that students' work as it progresses. And there's a lot of novel inbuilt features within BIM 360, such as this immersive tool, where students can go in and they can, in a very immersive way, explore the environments that they've created. And I guess it exposes them to great industry tools that they might be exposed to when they go into industry. And I guess, again, with common data environments from a fairly early stage, we're trying to instill that as it was PAS 1192, or as it is now, that ISO 19650 workflow of having a work in progress folder, which becomes where you share your information, and then you can publish or archive your information also. So sticking a little bit on the tools, some of the other, I guess, tools that we expose our students to as part of this Level 8 program. We have a lot of immersive technology type tools in the college or in MTU. So we have VR headsets such as an Oculus Rift and a HTC Vive. And Enscape, I guess, is the platform that we use to launch those immersive environments. So while you can go into a graphical information model using Enscape, and with a headset you can explore it in a virtual sense, there's a lot of other novel features, such as you can create rendered images with QR scanned codes. So if I was to scan that QR code with my phone, and I guess I'll be sharing this slide deck as part of today's presentation, if I simply scan that image, I can then look at my phone and have an immersive experience of that exact location in that building. And if I click the Google Cardboard lens, I can then create a stereographic image, which could be put into a portable headset device to, again, just enhance the immersive experience. So I guess that's all on the virtual reality side of things. On the augmented reality side of things, so when we think of virtual or augmented reality, they're very different concepts. I just have a screen recording here of my phone. So I'm using an augmented reality app, which we share with our students. And once students have created a graphical information model, they can then use this app to explore that model. So when we talk about augmented reality, we're talking about layering the real world with digital information. So it's very different to virtual reality, which is a false world. So here I am in my office. I've got my graphical information model, which is just a steel frame portal building, and I can inspect that there now in real time, okay? So just sticking with the tools for one more slide, I guess visual programming or scripting is becoming more and more commonplace now in the industry. So we also expose our students to visual programming tools such as Dynamo. So I have an example here of a steel portal frame warehouse, where once you create a script in Dynamo, it helps you automate the creation of the geometry for the steel frame. So I guess this is very applicable for the steel frame structure you see here. It would be equally applicable in a modular sphere, where I guess in modular construction, you could have a corner supported module, and you could create a script where you could automate the geometry creation for those modules, and ultimately then export them into Autodesk Revit. So you're doing no modeling in Revit, you're doing all of your scripting or programming in Dynamo, and then you're simply transferring into Revit. So I guess Dynamo and visual scripting and programming, I guess, Dynamo does a lot of things. It's a geometry creation tool. It could be also used an information management tool where you can mine data-rich environments such as graphical information models. And I guess one of the key concepts in industry is this ability to automate repetitive tasks once you have the script set up. So that level 8 award that I've just been discussing now, that Bachelor of Science. So semester 1 is that BIM technologies, where we introduce students to BIM tools and authoring softwares. Semester 2, then we start to focus more on the theory side of things. So this is that strategic BIM and M semester 2. So we start exploring exchange information requirements, BIM execution plans. Okay, so the focus starts switching from simply just the technologies and more into what BIM is probably more so about, which is this process, is how you manage information and deliver information. And then semesters 3 and 4, which becomes the final CPD offering, is applied BIM and M. So this is where I guess we take a lot of the concepts from semester 1 and 2, and we bring them together in semesters 3 and 4. So the certificate in building information modeling technologies, that first cert, that first CPD offering, that has been our most successful offering to date at MTU. There's been over 150 graduates on the program. It was Springboard funded in 2015 and 2019. And it was a finalist in the 2020 ICE Awards in the educational category. There's also adjunct faculty that deliver on that program. And I guess, as you can see, like it's been heavily supported by industry. So not only is this a great opportunity, I guess, for you when you come to MTU to develop and get the skills in BIM that you desire, it's also a great opportunity to network with like-minded individuals from very prominent companies around the country. I guess this isn't simply just locally in Cork. We now have students from all nationwide. So that's our level 8 program. So that was our kind of key offering. And now we have 2 new offerings, 2 level 9 awards. So we have a postgraduate diploma in science in building, in applied building information modeling and digital AEC. So we have a HDIP. And we also now have a Master of Science in building information modeling and digital AEC. So the HDIP, the postgrad diploma, actually has Springboard funding for the coming year. So I think the fees associated with this postgrad award is in the region of €7,000. But with the Springboard funding this year, 90% of that fee will be covered. To differentiate these programs, so with the HDIP, there's a focus on enhancement and deepening of professional practice skill. And that comes from the fact that there's an industry-based project. So it's 3 semesters delivered over 1 year. So you have in the first semester, you'll have 2 modules. In the second semester, which would occur over the summer, there's an industry-based module. So you'll be in industry. Now, a lot of the students that we get on this HDIP are already industry-based. So if you're currently working with a company, you can carry out this module in your existing work practice. And then the final semester would be back for, I guess, 2 more modules. The Master of Science, then, to differentiate that, this is more aligned to an enhancement and deepening of research skills. So there is no work placement module as part of this program, but instead there's a thesis or a master's research project to deliver. So some of the themes, I guess, as part of these level 9 programs, so I guess the educational aim is to convert a traditional architecture, engineering, or construction graduate into a skilled postgraduate with an understanding of So amongst the teams, sustainability, BIM, digital FM, asset management, data management, all of the key streams and emerging technologies, I guess, that are making their way into the industry currently. And I guess, again, I'll be sharing this slide deck. So I guess this is almost for the benefit of those that might be picking up on this slide deck at a later time. But again, that differentiation. So with the postgrad diploma graduate, we're talking about the enhancement and deepening of professional engineering practice, whereas on the master's side of things, it's more focused on the research skills. So this will be for the benefit, I guess, for those that will be picking up on the lecture later or the slide deck later. So just some closing thoughts before I bring our speakers on board today. The pace of change, I guess, it has never been this fast, yet it will never again be this slow. It has been a great challenge for educators to keep up in this BIM space. It's equally a challenge for industry professionals. I guess the lesson or maybe one of the learnings that I'd like you to take from today's session is that MTU, we're well established in delivering BIM programs, and we're here to support the industry. We're very open to collaboration and research opportunities with industry and academic partners. And we're delighted to be able to say we were winners of the best academic paper at this year's CitA BIM gathering. And that was a collaboration between Horgan Lynch Consulting Engineers and ourselves. So we would love to have the opportunity to explore collaborative research opportunities with other individuals or other companies. So if there's anyone watching this lecture today or indeed in the future and you'd like to reach out, please feel free to get in touch with me at sean.carroll@mtu.ie. So I guess that's it for me for now, guys. I'd like to maybe just introduce our first speaker now for today. So we have Mark Whitehead, who's head of construction at Cpap Modular. So Mark, if you'd like to take the opportunity there to start sharing your screen. And Mark will be giving a presentation to us on hybrid modular construction. And so again, I guess just folks, if you don't mind, as proceedings continue here today, please feel very free to post any questions you might have in the chat, and we will pick those up at the end of today's session. So over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for the introduction. So yeah, I'll be doing a quick presentation on hybrid modular construction and also looking into how we're using Evercam construction cameras to improve our processes and to make everything as lean as possible from factory to site. So basically going to give you a quick introduction about the company. We're going to explain a little bit more about hybrid modular. I've got a couple of videos in there from an architect's view, and we're going to look at how we're using time-lapse video cameras, Evercam construction cameras on a previous project and on a current project. And also just a quick look at what the future of hybrid modular construction looks like from our point of view. So yeah, so I'm Mark Whitehead, as Sean said. I'm head of construction here at Cpap Modular. I'd have more of a traditional background in building, I suppose, but over the last few years, the modular side and offsite construction and modern methods of construction have really taken over, and it's a really exciting journey to be on. And I'm really excited to be part of Cpap Modular because they're really looking forward in innovative ideas on how we can improve all these processes. So I suppose originally trading as Cpac, the provider of kind of temporary modular cabins, and it started around 40 years ago. And the Cpac earned a great reputation for the fast delivery and innovative space solutions for the educational, construction, healthcare sectors. And now trading as Cpap Modular, we've started more ambitious modular building projects, and we're developing our own systems which focus on quality, sustainability, as well as design flexibility. And we've got a constant drive to improve our choice of materials and our processes of how we deliver the buildings right from the concept stage, the design, through the manufacturing and the factory and onto site and the handover. The company is now a leading modular building company in the education and healthcare sectors, and we provide large-scale temporary, hybrid and permanent projects. So a recent project that we've completed, and a bit of background on hybrid modular. So a recent project there is a community college with 11 classrooms over 2 stories, And the design, manufacture and build took us 14 weeks, and the time on site was 6 weeks. Kind of traditionally, the temporary space provision for, especially in education and healthcare sectors, has traditionally been seen as the use of a grey box style light fabricated unit, almost like a jackleg cabin. And this type of build was designed to suit a limited lifespan, and it often lacks the relevance and the optimal performance if used past the intended lifespan. So hybrid modular is off-site construction combined with on-site finishing works, and it's built to last over 30 years with NZEB and building regulations compliant. And it's a real building with style. So I suppose why hybrid modular? And I'm going to just show you now a short video that gives the architect's perspective of why hybrid modular is a great solution to
Dublin Delivery UTB engaged us through a procurement process to deliver a temporary building at the time on this site. They indicated their requirement for 2020 was 5 classrooms. They would need more in 2021, and that we'd be retained to do that, and possibly more in the future. Then when we looked at the site, realised that this isn't going to work if we keep going this way. And we persuaded them to look at a delivery of as much as possible in phase 1, which would be a good sized building that could stand over 2 stories on the site and would look well with the existing building. We stopped thinking of it as a temporary building and temporary accommodation, and decided to look and try and enhance the building in finishes and in design and form. When we considered that it was going to be there for a longer period of time, we had to look at a building that was going to last the test of time.
We were approached by Kenny Lyons Architects, where they had a fantastic design concept that they wanted to lead out with. So they approached us, and our design team met with Peter's architectural team, and they both sat down and viewed it and came up with this robust, fantastic design that was ISO approved, but also was leading into BCAR and MZEB compliancy.
So the hybrid modular concept is off-site construction combined with a good element of on-site construction. So the steel frame and the 40 units were made off-site in their workshop, delivered to site in 5 days and erected, and then it allowed the other trades to get on with mechanical and electrical finishes internally, which would be more on-site construction. And then because we had that time while that was going on, we could apply better finishes on the outside. So the external cladding was applied on-site, which gives it a more permanent feature. We're not just tied to the modular divisions of the 40 units. We could make it look like a larger building.
Part of the design and the specification that Peter's team came up with was having this unique type of canopy and walkway leading from the 2 buildings.
Because this was delivered in 2020, it had to have NZEB compliance, near zero energy buildings. We have here air-to-water heat pumps which deliver heating and cooling through internal cassette units, air conditioning units in each classroom. So the building is completely electrically operated. And then the high levels of insulation, we have the modular frame is insulated internally, but then we had the added benefit of the external insulation cladding on the building. So it's extremely well insulated and really efficient to heat. It is very much a permanent building that way, and it's fully accessible, complies with its own disability access certificate. We were assigned certifiers for the project, so we had to coordinate the certification, and part of that is the building inspections.
We were able to accommodate Peter's team coming to the factory to view the build, so any changes were easy to do off-site rather than on-site.
Several off-site inspections at Cpac's workshop. We could see the full frame of the building at various stages. We could inspect each element. And then when the units were assembled on site, the linings and completions were happening over a number of weeks, but you could see the full assembly before that happened and closing up. You have much more control on quality then, so the quality control on the materials is superb.
Once the site works were complete, we were able to bring the modules to site, and we put the building together in 4 days.
Since we completed this project, we've been looking at several other school sites and some HSE projects, and suggesting to our clients that they could consider this method of hybrid modular in a way to deliver their requirements in a permanent building rather than a temporary solution.
So there we saw a recent project which we completed in 2020, and it was a real flagship project for ourselves, and we feel we did a fantastic job there to go for the hybrid modular, which really would make it fit in with the current surroundings. So now we're just going to look at a current project that we are on with at the moment, which is again, it's kind of it's a bigger version of what we just looked at. It's a 100 module hybrid modular building, just under 3,200 square meters. We've got 16 standard classrooms, construction study rooms, technology rooms, art rooms, home economics, science and special education needs. It was built off-site and delivered onto site in around 8 weeks. And what we're trying to do is we're always trying to improve. So we're always trying to add more elements in the factory where we can get this process to a better finished product. So when it goes to site, there's less time needed on site. So one of the things that we decided we were going to start using on the projects was Evercam construction cameras. So I'm going to go into the whole process of Evercam construction cameras a little bit after the next slide. So the next slide is just showing a quick time lapse of a current project to show the speed that we can get these buildings onto site and the efficiency of it. Sorry. So Evercam construction cameras, we use them in a number of different ways. As you can see from the video there, we're using it with a BIM integration. So the BIM integration is a great tool where we can obviously compare the project as it stands currently with the BIM model laid over the top, and we can take that right back to the foundations and the interiors on the building. And what that means is we can show the client, the architect, we can show them the kind of the finished project, and we can also track the progress of a job of a site. We can improve on our quality checks because we can actually go back and we can look at the project as it's being built, and we can look to ensure that certain quality checks have been made on the exterior of the building. We can check that compared with the BIM model, that certain elements, whether it be insulation, whether it be fire protection, that have all been put into the project. There's a massive improvement in coordination for us, because what it means is that we've got cameras within the manufacturing facility, the Evercam cameras, and we've got cameras out on site. So we can be having a site meeting in the times that we are now, where you're on a Teams meeting and you can be talking about the site with everyone getting a live view and everybody up to date and exactly where we are on the job. Another great thing that we're doing at the minute is we're using it for tracking the modules that we're building, so the units of steel frames, and that's from the factory right through to site. So what it means is we can measure exactly how long it's taking to build the units within the manufacturing facility, how we can improve on that, and then once it goes out to site, we can keep a track on it to see how long it's taken to land these buildings, how long it's taken to finish them, and the whole handover, and we can really try to streamline our processes. So this is just a very short video just to show how we're getting tracking the modules from our factory right through to site. And Darragh, this is the last video. So the final sort of slide for myself is what the future of hybrid modular construction looks like from our perspective. So we're often looking at hybrid modular and sort of offsite construction and modular construction as kind of like the Lego blocks, I suppose, as you know, playing with your children as you do now and building the Lego kind of towers and houses and everything. That's the kind of concept that we're trying to look at for this. You know, we're trying to look at how quickly we can build these units, how quickly we can refine, how we can refine the process of the build, how we can improve on the quality of the internal finish. We want to get to the plug and play element of mechanical and electrical, and we want to get architectural elements within these buildings and exterior just to make them look as permanent as possible, but also to cut the site time down as much as possible by getting the factory finish up to a point of around about 85 to 90% finished. So when it's going to site, there's minimal site time. We're looking at permanent buildings with a lifespan of over 60 years. And I suppose the big aim for us is looking at a 10-story building using hybrid modular construction in the future. It's a big aim, but we're all aiming towards that, and everybody's pulling in the right direction. It's a really exciting time to be involved in modular construction. As I said earlier, the whole industry is moving very fast towards offsite construction and modern methods of construction, and we really are at the forefront of it, and we're really pushing forward to try and innovate ideas and push this along as quickly as we possibly can and improve constantly. So I'd like to say thank you for listening to that short presentation, and I'll pass back over to Sean now.
Excellent, Mark. Thanks very much for that very interesting presentation, and great to see the hybrid approach that you're taking there at Cpac Modular to your construction projects, and interesting to see the use of Evercam being incorporated on your projects as well. So looking forward to maybe discussing further as part of the Q&A. Maybe just a reminder for everyone that's here with us today, feel very free to post any questions that you might have into the chat, and we have a dedicated session at the end of today's session where we can address your questions to today's presenters. So I guess I'd like to maybe introduce our next presenters now, who are Darragh Fahy and Darragh of Horizon Offsite. So Darragh and Darragh, if you're ready there, please feel free to start sharing your screen.
I'll wait for Darragh. Sean, thank you, Sean. Darragh is going to put up the presentation.
Okay.
So I'll give you a quick introduction. My name is Darragh Fahy. I'm the commercial director for Horizon Offsite. Darragh, have you the?
Yeah, and just let me know whatever you can see that.
That's it. We're there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'll give you guys a quick introduction to Horizon Offsite, and I'll let Darragh Ryan, then Horizon's design manager, take it from there. So Horizon Offsite, we established our business in 2017, and I suppose it was established by four guys, me being one of them, and three other guys that were in the LGS game for quite a long time. So I suppose at the time we really saw an upcoming and a niche for offsite construction at that time. So I suppose that's really why we took the decision to set the business up. So we set up a system that's a fully accredited offsite system, light gauge system, structural light gauge system, basically to supply. Initially, most of our product was going to the UK, but the UK, Ireland, and Europe. As of now, the majority of our product is going to the Irish market. We're based in the business park in Carroll in County Tipperary, which is an ideal location because very close to the M8 motorway, and it's very central to get to Dublin, Cork, Limerick, etc. So an ideal location. Where we are right now, we have in the region of 60 employees direct, and probably the same indirect in terms of subcontractors erecting for us on site. We have from starting in 2007, we have built a business to probably turning over in the region of 18 million this year. So we have had a fairly high trajectory in terms of turnover, which is good. But I suppose we've managed to maintain that, and our outcome for next year is obviously looking very, very, very strong. We would consider ourselves right now as one of the market leaders in structural light gauge steel systems, both in Ireland and in the UK. Let's go to the next one there. I suppose just giving you a quick overview of our facility. So our facility, as I said, is based in Cahir in County Tipperary. We have in the region of 3,200 square meters of manufacturing floor facility with additional office space. We have lots of room to expand within this because it's quite a big industrial park. So at the moment, we have taken different areas of the park where we have storage areas taken, we have other facilities taken. So I suppose we're in an ideal location for expansion because there's quite a lot of premises around us that we can take on. At present, we have 3 machines. We have 3 different roll formers. We have creating different profiles, and I suppose the profiles are specific to the design that we're doing. So again, it's a facility that we were very lucky to get, and I suppose there's big room for expansion. That's really just a quick introduction to Horizon. I'm going to hand you over to Darragh now, Darragh Ryan, and Darragh will take it from there.
Yes, hello, thanks, Ger. Okay, look, just as well to talk about what we offer, right? So Darragh mentioned it before. It's a structural load-bearing solution, right? It's panelized, so it's not like the 3D modules which you saw earlier. It's a 2D panel, flat packed, and then delivered to site, stood, using a crane and bolted and connected together. So like the presentation earlier with Mark, we also want to do more and more in the factory. So especially with external walls. At the moment, most of our panels are going out with the light gauge steel and insulation on them, be that mineral wool or PIR. So we're offering clients more now. So this is just a selection. We actually do these lightweight renders on site, which is a panel and a board with render on it, and we do that work on site. So the same as with brick slip and stone and other cladding systems like Equitone or rain screen cladding. Okay, so we, as well as the external walls, we do the internal walls, decking, which we pour concrete onto. So we have a light gauge steel floor options as well. We also do hot rolled steel and balconies, roofs. So there are load bearing options, but we also do a modular and infill option as well. So we do the infill non-load bearing walls that you would see on some modules, or infill for cladding systems. Okay, because offsite construction is quite new, it's a new industry. So the certification and accreditation is extremely important. The NSAI for us, operating in Ireland, that's the most important document. That is essentially the Bible of what we do. So it has our details, it has our fire testing, and it has any further information about the system that any client or architect or TA would need to review and approve the system. So as well as the NSAI, we've got the CE, we've got SCI accreditation, NHBC. But what's central is that all of our wall build-ups, they're tested. So walls and floors, so they're fully fire tested walls. We've got 32 full-scale independent tests and assessments carried out in accredited laboratories. Okay, and as well for load bearing, or for all the walls, we've got acoustic tests as well. So we've got 40 acoustic tests and lots of site testing data as well, which we can use. Okay, now what I want to do is talk a bit more about the design process. Okay, so the design workflow process. So it starts following appointment on a job. So it starts with the structural scheme and load takedown. Okay, so initially this is just a basic markup, color coding the walls, wall types, and gives you a line load for each wall and wall type. Okay, because Horizon, we generally, 99% of the time, we don't do the foundation design. That'd be the engineer on the client's design team side. We just do the the superstructure design, so substructure not by horizon, and we provide those loads. So that essentially is the first thing that is provided to start the foundation or substructure engineer to do the substructure design. Okay. Then this diagram then represents our digital workflow, right? It shows what information is coming in, what's coming out. So the design team feeds the initial process here based on, you know, the employer's information requirements and the design team's BIM execution plan. We take their information and create what we call a pre-con model or pre-construction model, okay? So that's the start of our information management process for design, fabrication, and ultimately then construction of the system on site, okay? The digital delivery system then stems across our entire company, and everything is interlinked, and it's using this pre-con model, which I'll show you a bit more. Okay, so the pre-con model then, it forms the basis of all coordination with the design team. It's an iterative process. It accounts for the general spatial coordination, the element design, and then incorporation of all the overall light gauge steel system, you know, into the NSAI, the National Standards Authority of Ireland, into our agreement cert approved system. Okay, the model, it's essentially a digital twin for all the information gathered throughout the design process, and then it becomes the basis of fabrication data then after design. Okay, it's an iterative ongoing process, okay, until we get sign off or design freeze. So that is a stage then, it's a stage, a milestone that we get to with the design team, that the model has then been reviewed, agreed, and then we can begin then to disseminate the information to build the framing model, the hot rolled steel fabrication model, and boarding drawings, which is the fire protection drawings to the system. Okay, so from the pre-econ model, we then distribute the required information to each team, right, internally. So each team then would still have access to the full project in real time. So the hot rolled structural steel, because our light gauge steel system, it's a hybrid system with inbuilt hot rolled steel columns and light gauge steel walls, light gauge steel load bearing walls. So the hot rolled steel then is fed from the design packages into the pre-con, and it's issued to the steel fabricators for the production of steel fabrication drawings. And then our framers, which we call those drafting technicians, which are modeling the studs, they have access to the pre-con and the steel model to detail the light gauge steel panels around the hot rolled steel. And this ensures like no clashes are formed by, you know, otherwise working in isolation, you know, so it's constantly been clash detect back to that pre-con model. Okay, so the hot rolled steel and the light gauge steel then are coordinated and signed off internally from this pre-construction model. Okay, the pre-con model, it's used for, you know, our QC and QM procedure, and it's verified and checked, you know, the framing is verified and checked at each stage along until it's ready for fabrication. Okay. So then, as part of this, our digital delivery process, it's important to the entire company. So with the production and access to large amounts of data, we're tasked with managing the creation, publication, and production of all throughout the construction life cycle of the project. And then this leads to information supply for the operation life cycle of the building. Okay, to do this, right, the system incorporates all the information, so be that communications, drawings, specifications, you know, material purchase orders across the entire company from right from the start of the project till it's fully complete. Okay. So the software we use then, right? So structural design. So a large part of it is the structural design. So this is the design of the light gauge steel and hot rolled steel. So we use Autodesk Robot Structural Designer. We use Tekla Structural Designer and TED's add-in as well. For connection design for the hot rolled steel, we use Idea Statica. and Tata, Comflor, and we also have our in-house spreadsheets then for the light gauge steel design. Okay. Okay, the drafting software we use. Okay, so for the pre-con or the pre-construction stage, we use Revit, Autodesk Revit to build that model. Okay, so at the bottom of the page here, you can see a comparison between like an architectural model and the Horizon pre-con model. So you can see it's a digital twin of the architectural model with added information like M&E openings, you know, anything that we need to coordinate with the foundations, everything. So it's the architectural model and more, and with our system applied to it. So wall thicknesses, details. Okay, so that's used. Revit, we use that, and then once we get sign off, we go into the framing stage, which is the individual studs, you know, and then we use Vertex CAD for that stage. So that's a separate model, but it uses the pre-con model and is continuously linked back and clash detected to that. This is just some examples now of the pre-con model, which is on the top left. And then when that gets signed off, we then go to the framing stage where you see the individual studs are modeled, and eventually then to construction on site. So that project there was one for Cairn Homes. It's a 4-story apartment block in Naas. There's 2 apartment blocks on that job. This is another example. So initially there up on the top left, again, the pre-con model. So this is the model that the architect and design team review, interrogate, and you know, where all the inputting information goes to. That's the signed off model. Once everyone's happy on design team, then we use Vertex to apply the studs to those walls in accordance with the structural engineering design. Okay, so this job actually is a student accommodation job, Bandon Road. So you can see the building in the photograph on the right side. So there was a selection of 5 blocks of student accommodation. Okay, so this is just an example. So sometimes, you know, we would supply balconies. Sometimes the client would opt for another company, you know, a specialist architectural balcony company, maybe, to supply the balcony. So we model stubs onto the external facade, thermal break, and it's just an example of part of the coordination process. So the bolt holes need to be coordinated, the loads, the position of these stubs, and it just shows you how it's all fed back into that pre-con model. Okay, just to close off now, I just want to have a look at a couple of projects. This one, Roxborough and Limerick, this was a large project and it's completed now. The last picture down on the bottom right there is actually a photograph, not an architectural model, so it's fully completed on site. And again, the Bandon Road job, just some further pictures from that one. I've actually got a video of a different job, a time lapse. We also use the Evercams, the same as Mark. So this is just a time lapse of a project in Cork. It's Heather House Hospital. So Heather House Nursing Home. So what it is a bariatric and nursing home, and we were involved on the project right from the start. And this is the construction of the superstructure. So once foundations are laid, then we come to site, panels are delivered and start being erected in line with, as well, the hot rolled steel gets erected at the same time. So you can see there just that process and how quick it is. So this is different now from Mark's, as it's panelized and everything arrives in those flat pack panels you can see in the foreground of the drawing and are lifted in place and bolted together. Okay, we're nearly there now. But this was a 2-story hospital, and it took 9 weeks on site for us to complete and be offsite. So it's the sort of time frame. In the foreground there, you can see a lot of hot rolled steel. There's clear open spans there for a reception area and a large room. So any large spans like that and double-story height spaces would need hot rolled steel. Okay, I think we're just at the end now. Okay, I can take questions at the end, or if anyone has any now as well, I'd be happy to take them.
Excellent, Darragh. Thanks for a very
Thank you.
interesting presentation, and thanks to Ger as well. So great to see the success Horizon has had in such a short period of time. And I guess we look forward to having a quick look or deeper look into maybe the intricacies there of the pre-con model. Okay, so very interesting presentation, and we might wait until the end of the session where we can give an opportunity for questions. So thanks, Ger, and thanks, Darragh. That was excellent. And great to see, I guess, as well, a panelized system as you referred to, as opposed to a volumetric type system. So I guess maybe I'll just call on the final speaker of today before hopefully we get an opportunity to have an engaging Q&A. Just a reminder to everyone one last time, just look, the chat function is there. Feel very free to post any questions you might have. But again, there'll be an opportunity, I guess, at the end of the session to voice your questions also, if that's preferred. So I guess for the next presenters, I'd like to introduce Michael Martin of the HSE and Anna Boch to give their presentation on Capital and Estates digital transformation journey. So over to you, Michael.
Thanks, Sean, for the introduction, and thanks everyone for joining on your lunch break. Myself and Michael are going to, I suppose, share our story with you in terms of the HSE Capital and Estates digital transformation journey, which we have taken on recently, and hopefully you'll find it of interest. Michael, I'm not sure if I can actually move on to the next screen, so I might just ask you to push the button. There we go, perfect. So I'm going to talk about, I suppose, a quick introduction to the HSE Capital and Estates division, the key drivers behind our digital transformation, what the National Estates Information System, or NEIS as we call it, actually is and what it does, and what our expected benefits are from our whole NEIS project, and then the next steps in terms of where we are now and where we're going. So for anybody who mightn't be familiar with the Capital and Estates element of the HSE itself was established in 2005 and originally would have had the health board organisations. The Estates division is broken into 11 regional offices. So we have a team of about 250 colleagues across the whole country. We're responsible for over 4,000 buildings, which include acute hospitals, primary care centres, community nursing units, office accommodation, laboratories, warehouses, and I suppose with COVID, we've added vaccination centres and testing centres to our portfolio as well. We have an annual capital budget of about 1.4 billion, and our reinstatement value is about 14 billion. So it's quite a significant portfolio that we have. In terms of key drivers for digital transformation, I suppose as a public sector body, we align ourselves to public strategy and policy. We had the public service ICT strategy. We have the digital roadmap for BIM. And I suppose more recently, we have the whole construction innovation and digital adoption, and in particular, the Build Digital project as well. And when I look at this, I suppose these key points, so many of those resonate with our own project in terms of digital leadership and culture change, the government procurement rules and digital procurement, digital education and training, right across. It's something that's the space that we're in right now and will be for the next couple of years. I suppose whatever about the public policies and the high level drivers behind it, what's really at the core of why we're on this journey is the people's needs defining change. The pictures might be a little bit unkind, but I'm sure we've all been in offices where the paper piles were just overwhelming. And in a lot of our local offices, we would have operated a paper-based system and utilized outdated technology. And there's been a real appetite and desire for a single cloud-based platform where we can provide one reliable source of information. There's nothing worse than having to send an email to 4 colleagues to find out what the current state of play is in different projects and different sites, and especially during COVID, just to be able to access information now and accurate information at the right time is just so essential to delivering what we do. And there's a real desire to, I suppose, to do things the right way and to use the best technology that's out there. How we're going about doing it, a little less about technology on this slide, and I suppose what we're really realizing and learning on our journey is that 10% is technology, 20% is about the process. So without the process, it's very hard to actually configure the technology. But if you don't have the people involved and can actually bring that digital energy and technology in and make it useful and practical, you're at nothing. So the effort involved in actually bringing that change about to an organization like our own, the effort is all about the change management piece. And we're following an organizational development framework, which is all around I suppose, the people's needs defining change. And we've got key kind of pillars that we're following, which is collective leadership, engaging and communicating, not just with our own teams, but also with our external delivery partners, modeling our shared values, using and evidence and leveraging the technology that's available there now, and previous demonstrations of the technology that's there is just so fundamental to what we're doing. Networking and partnering with people with shared vision and common goals, being accountable for our own performance and investing in people and teams. And I think understanding personal experiences, not everybody's ready for change at the same time, and we need to hear what where somebody's at and listen to what they're saying. For us to roll out a digital transformation program in the middle of COVID brought its own challenges. It also brought its own opportunities, and listening to people's stories and where they are at a certain point in time is fundamental. So in terms of more around the technology itself, we went to tender and we appointed contract just Christmas Eve a year ago at this stage. So that was an exciting time, and we were all geared up to go, and then COVID hit and the world turned us and everybody else on its head. But we have partnered with IBM, and we're delivering the integrated workplace management system known as Darragh, which effectively delivers 5 platforms to manage projects, operations and maintenance, real estate, environmental, and the space management and facilities module. And underneath all of that sits, I suppose, the core components which feed the data into those settings. Each of those individual modules take about 6 months to configure. So that's where we take our processes and configure the digital system to meet our own needs. On top of that, because IBM don't actually deliver a construction management module per se, we have also partnered with Oracle Aconex, and Oracle and IBM have integrated their Aconex platform with Darragh. So the Aconex information that we gather on our construction projects integrates into our integrated workplace management system, and we actually have access to the data that we need from the projects on the ground. So the Oracle Aconex platform is the tool that we're, I suppose, trying to deliver to our teams at the moment in terms of offering it to design teams and contractors to work with us to deliver our construction projects. So the tool itself is used for planning. It can be used for tendering. We actually use eTenders and SupplyGov as a public body, and that was our first dip into digital transformation when we've now moved to total digital tendering on eTenders for all of our competitions. We use the Aconex platform for design, construction, and it also offers opportunity for handover to operations and maintenance. So I'm going to pass over to Michael, who's the product owner for the Aconex platform itself, who will go into a bit more detail in terms of how we actually delivered the configured product that we're rolling out now.
Okay, thanks, Anna. So just to follow on from Anna there's a number of product owners involved in the digital transformation at the minute. I'm one of 4 at the minute, working closely with other partners or other colleagues, who are looking at other aspects of the Darragh system to deliver overall capital project management, capital program management, maintenance and operations, and the portfolio that Anna talked about. I suppose looked specifically at the construction management and the project management within construction. Just my background, I'm about 20 years in the HSE, with about 10 years before that in project manager or construction manager role on site. So even this has been a massive change for the last 30 years where I was dealing with construction. We're now into the IT side, which is a whole new world. So where do we start? So luckily in the HSE, we have a certain amount of framework. We have the Capital Works Management Framework documents that are from the Department of Expenditure and Reform, which guides how we issue our contracts. Within the HSE, we have our own Capital Projects Manual and Approval Protocol, which sets out the various stages of approval through the design process to construction and has approval gates. For all our design teams that we appoint on projects, we have a technical requirements document, which sets out the inputs and outputs required at every stage of design. And as part of that, we have our employer information requirements now set out in accordance with ISO 19650. So we're moving into this space fairly quickly. And at the start of this journey, we started to look at our internal processes, our workflows, and how we do our business. And as Anna mentioned, there's 10 offices located around the country. And up until now, we've had a certain amount of those offices doing different things, the same thing in different ways. So we've been amalgamating our processes as we go. So what does that mean for us? Well, we started and we mapped literally pen and paper to go through the various processes that we have. We then digitalize those, had an implementation group with representatives from various levels within the organization and across almost all of the offices or regions to agree and sign off on the processes that we use. So we standardized the processes where we could. We then engaged with our partners in Aconex or Oracle, and we mapped those processes to align it with the out-of-the-box functionality of Aconex, or in some cases we adapted the functionality of Aconex to allow us to marry with our own processes. So what that means is, for instance, within Aconex, there's a lot of mails are sent, mail forms. So we've configured specific mail forms. This one is an example of a notification for inspection on a BCAR process. So it means that we've configured the mails to suit our processes. And we've also then used the other aspects of the Aconex platform, which is around packages and workflow reviews to suit the processes that we have within the various processes of the organization. So just to give an example of what we've done, so we've configured process flows for the public works contracts, of which there are 8 public works, PWCF 1 to 8, and then we also have PWCF 11. So we looked at all those various workflows, looked at the contracts. Anywhere that it said we had a specific workflow, we've built mail forms on that basis, and in total there's 277 different mail types across the different public works contracts. We also have a PPP form of contract because we do a number of public-private partnerships. We developed 7 process flows there with another 114 different mail types. Some of those are actually common between the 2 different types of contracts, but the majority of them are actually slightly different. And then there's a number of core processes which include our project stage reviews, or design team reviews, our budget control, budget changes, and then some things around the BCAR process, safety file, RFIs, that sort of stuff. And we've looked at those, and as well as developing mail forms for them, we've also set up packages and workflows that makes the standardization process for all of our 11 offices easier and more intuitive. So we've built the system in such a way that it leads us down a certain path and a certain process in accordance with the workflows that we set up originally. So from a next point of view, and I've been sort of focusing at the minute on mail, but there's a lot more functionality that I just want to go into around the common data environment, which and document management, document control, which, as you can imagine, if we're coming from 10 different offices, is something that is very beneficial for us, so we can do everything the same way. So the Aconex platform, the core functions are, as I said, a CDE, a common data environment. It has very good document control. There's a communication package within Aconex, which is the mail function, which is effectively replacing our normal email for project-related material, for project-related communication. So all project-specific, project-related communication in the future will be done on the Aconex platform. We then have package and workflows, as I said, to bound stuff together and provide them through reviews and like product reviews for contractors back to design teams. That'll be done on the workflow. We also have a field application or field app, which will allow issues to be raised on site and allocated to a member design team or a contractor, and that can be tracked as well. There's no limit in space. So there's one of the issues we had before going between offices was the ability, obviously, to share large content files and that sort of stuff. There's no restriction now. It's accessible through the internet, and it's accessible by all. It's a software as a service. We have procured it, but there's no cost to our partners. But at the core of and one of the reasons why we picked Oracle Aconex as the solution is the whole thing around system neutrality. So we've used other systems previously where, we've had feedback to say, well, how do I know what I put up on the system you can't see, or that the architect can't see what the contractor sees, and that sort of stuff. So the whole principle around Aconex is system neutrality. So each organization owns their own space on Aconex and can utilize that space to upload their own documents, revise them, within their organization, and only when they decide to transmit them or share them with other organizations will that information be shared. And that's the cornerstone of the platform. And I think it's one of the major pluses as we go forward. And again, it complies with the work in progress and sharing aspects of ISO 19650. So just to focus a bit on the modeling or the model abilities, shall we say, of Aconex, it has a model viewer built in, which is the common data environment. They accept both OpenBIM IFC format, or in the latest updates, which came about April or May this year, we can now upload directly RVT files as well. So the other thing to say, I suppose, is Aconex is continually releasing new products, new updates, new upgrades all the time. So it's excellent, and they have a very good help support central function. If we get lost or if we need to get any direction, that's the first place to go. So it's a simple matter of each design team member uploading their own model. The system automatically federates. In this example, I have 3 models together. You can see them in green on the left-hand side. So that federates the models automatically. It's got a very simple user interface. And importantly for ourselves in the HSE, it has got an integrated viewer within the platform, which means that every office or every user within an office doesn't have to have Revit or another viewer in their desktop. They can come on to the Aconex platform and they'll automatically have the viewer available. That viewer is very powerful in that you can do sections and cuts and all that sort of stuff, and anybody can do that. Obviously, it's working it on the platform, so it doesn't affect the native models back on the servers of the design teams. So say we've got the ability to cut multiple sections. It's ideal. We've already used it for some design reviews with our non-technical staff, and it's amazing the reaction you get when you're able to show someone a 3D model compared to the old 2D line drawings, and you might spend 10 or 15 minutes explaining, what the lines meant, where it's very visual and very easy to understand now. And we're starting even to get people say, well, can you not 3D that so to give us more idea of the space? So it allows us to communicate design early and easily, and it actually reduces our consultation time. Now, another key feature within the modeling is the ability to raise issues. So it's a very good design review tool through the design process. So what we can do is we can identify, capture, and allocate issues. Once we see an issue and we capture it in a viewport, it'll give you a still viewport which you can mark up. Show that's shown on the top of the picture here. But it also provides the live model that's on the platform in the bottom section, which allows you to manipulate and review the context that is there. You can then allocate that issue to a member of the design team or another member of your own team or a contracting team or whatever. And then you can track any actions and tag them with metadata. So it makes the actions a lot easier to track and to manage and close out. It also lists all the associated models that are in the view, so that you can quite easily go back to the native model to make any alterations that's required. There's a very good platform dashboard, easy to use dashboard, which shows issues that are assigned to yourself, any issues that are assigned to your organization, and any issues that have been raised that are assigned to the other organizations on the project. And they can be classified by open, in progress. It flags any overdue ones so that they'll come up in your inbox as overdue, and any items that are closed. And then one other important feature is when you do raise issues, you can actually also assign a mail to the issue. And in this instance, I've just shown that the mail has been raised as a result of the issue. And within the mail itself, it actually takes you to the back to the issue that's raised on the platform. So everything's linked together. And again, you can run Excel reports and you can export all of the issues in the BCF format if you want to take them back into Navisworks or something else. So it's a very powerful tool and a massive difference from where we're at the minute. And with that, I'm going to hand back to Anna.
Thanks, Michael. I suppose what we've hoped we've shown in our presentation is how we've applied the technologies that we can access now and they're available to us. We've combined them with the various processes and protocols that we work with. And by implementing those together with the people that we work with, who work for us, our teams, we're hoping to achieve better information management, better integration of project teams, better collaboration, better communication, better coordination, I suppose better results all around. One of the key challenges that we have going forward is how do we measure those outcomes? Some of them are quite subjective, but certainly that's a good challenge to have, is to see what those outcomes will be and that we can meet those targets. Next steps on our own journey. I suppose we are currently in a pilot project phase. What that means is that we have selected one construction project or design stage project in every one of our regional offices. And it gives every office exposure to a project, and we've selected them that we are at a different stage in most of them, so that in a relatively short space of time, because one of the challenges we face is how do we run a pilot in construction where things can take longer than they would maybe in the rest of the IT world. And we're going to take feedback from both our own teams and very much so listen to what our contractors and design teams have to tell us as well. If we do need to make any changes to what we've done in terms of configuration or process, we can then implement those in the full rollout. And I suppose Aconex is very flexible that way, that we can configure and adapt. So even as changes come into policies at different levels, we can incorporate those into our configuration. What's key to us is that training and support is a foundation block to any ICT rollout. So what we're offering our own teams internally within estates, there's about 9 to 12 2-hour sessions that we're delivering over 2 to 3 weeks. I suppose that in itself is a change from how we would have traditionally rolled out training, where we would ask people to come to a 2 or 3 day block event maybe and sit down to presentations. We're now delivering training virtually, where people almost get a one-to-one experience on their own screen in terms of the training, and they don't have to book out an entire couple of days. They can do it in the morning, and then there's opportunity to record. So that's been quite interesting to see that learning come about. We're scheduling training quite regularly. It's not something that if you miss it, you can't go back to it. It's delivered virtually. We have accreditation opportunities with Aconex, and we're developing a peer network that there's an Aconex champion in every area that will be an advocate for the system. As Michael has mentioned, the online training is very useful, and I suppose we're directing our partners to that online training as well. In addition to delivering training sessions to our design teams and contractors, we do a 2-hour over 2 days that gives the fundamentals of how we have configured the system and how it can best, I suppose, assist all of the projects being delivered in the best possible way. And we're building up our own in-house expertise, and we're going to be providing our own help desks as well. In terms of communication, I once heard somebody say you can never communicate enough, or there's no such thing as over communication. So this is kind of the starting point for ourselves, even in sharing our journey with the outside world. We're about 7-8 months into a 3-year initial implementation piece, so there's a lot more to go. We've configured, we're starting our engagement, we're rolling out. The key part of the pilot projects, which we hope we'll be able to develop really good lessons learned early next year, probably end of Q1 next year, is that we can take those lessons and apply them to the rest of the project as well. So that's, I suppose, the end of the presentation. We've gone through the introduction and our key drivers. Michael spoke about the Aconex, and we highlighted the expected benefits. Our next steps on the journey are delivering the pilots, rolling out nationally to all our projects, that it becomes the way that we do our business. And I suppose for me, the key lesson learned so far is that digital transformation, it's more about the humans than the digital in itself, although we're all very excited about using the technology. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Anna and Michael, and I'd like to commend you on the great work you're doing there, especially in the backdrop of COVID with a digital transformation in HSE, which I guess is no light undertaking, so well done. So I guess that brings us to the end of our presentations for today. So maybe just a quick word of thanks for our sponsors for today. So hopefully the screen is sharing there now. So the sponsors of today's events were Arup and Diatech, and I guess that'll lead us nicely now into our Q&A session. So maybe just a final thanks to the CitA team who've put on another excellent regional week. I think we'll all agree, with some very interesting speakers throughout the week. So I can see that the first of the questions are starting to come through the chat, but maybe I'll use my advantage of chair today, maybe just to kick off proceedings while other questions come in. And Ger, if you're available there, I might go to you first and then to Darragh. So I guess, Ger, just in terms of like what Darragh alluded to there, let's say we have NSAI certified construction systems now in modern methods of construction, from panelized systems such as your own in Horizon to maybe the 3D volumetric ones that Mark referred to in Cpac. But at what stage is the best stage maybe for an architectural team who are coming up with a building in the concept stage? If they're looking to use a system such as yourselves, what stage should they be engaging you with to make sure that the building that comes to you is going to be, best fit for the particular system that you're going to deliver?
A great question, Sean. I suppose as early as possible, and I suppose that's probably one of our biggest challenges in offsite construction, where the norm for design is design the building to traditional methods. Go for your planning, your whatever, and then at that stage start figuring out how you're going to build it. And I think that's kind of a mentality that's been in the construction sector. It's changing a little bit right now, but the critical point for us in offsite construction is always going to be design, and it's always going to be to have the correct amount of time within the design process to make sure that we can build the building in our design and make the mistakes and correct them on the computer, as opposed to the opposite way. So the short answer to your question is, we really want to be involved in projects at concept stage that we can advise in terms of building the building to suit an offsite solution, because there's a real commercial advantage to the client by doing that. Because by minor alterations to buildings, and I'm not talking about the look of buildings, but internally within the buildings, there's big commercial advantages to be had by getting us involved at a very early stage. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen most of the time, but that's our challenge in offsite. Our challenge in offsite is to try to get to a level where, when people are looking at buildings, they're saying, okay, this building is suited to a frame solution. This building is suited to a modular solution. This building might be a hot rolled, or it might be a concrete building. So get to that level, and I think so as soon as possible.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Ger. So I guess, designing for manufacture and assembly in mind, I guess, as opposed to designing something and then trying to see which offsite solution fits it best. You should be thinking with it in the mind. And Darragh, I guess you really enjoyed the presentation there, where you outlined the steps of how you take, the traditional discipline BIM models of the architect, potential structural engineer, maybe MEP, and then that transitions into your pre-con model. Could you maybe just talk to me about the importance of why you are doing a pre-con model, as opposed to maybe simply taking the architectural model and using that as a reference to create the framing drawings from? It seems like the pre-con model is the key model that you need to create the framing drawings from. Could you maybe just explain about that process?
Yeah. See, the thing is, there's a lot of coordination that's needed, like to match the system. So our wall thicknesses, our build-ups, right? So there's a backwards and forwards there needed with the architect on the initial stages. Also, like architects by nature, they will change their design as it evolves through the process, right? If we went straight to framing and had the studs modeled, and then we had to go and change an opening, move a wall, that would take a lot of time. Whereas the pre-con model it's a volumetric model. It's shell elements of walls. The studs themselves aren't modeled. So just to move a wall 100 mil is it's a simple process as catching the wall and moving it, or moving the up to the side. You don't have to go through the process of the stud connections, moving individual studs, making sure your spacings are okay again. You want to be doing that framing, which is very labor intensive, at the very end when everything is signed off, completed, and you use your pre-con model then as your clash detection, as your master model to build that framing model. So it might seem as a little bit double handling, but in the end it will save you time, because if you went straight to framing, you would spend more than double the time in trying to solve the changes in that model. Yeah.
I can imagine. Excellent. No, that's good to see. So well done on that. Maybe Mark, I'll switch you over to yourself at Cpac now. So thanks to Ger and Darragh for that. And I guess there seems to be another question in the chat for you, which I'll pose to you here shortly. And for any of our members here online, if there's any other questions you'd like to pose to the presenters, please feel free to put into the chat. So Mark, just with yourself at Cpac, you're using Evercam in kind of nice, innovative ways. It's great to see. Like Evercam, like who I've seen from previous CitA presentations, they're using things like artificial intelligence, whereby the cameras can monitor trucks that are coming in. They can almost even measure volumes. Can you maybe talk to me some of the novel things that you're using those cameras for in the kind of factory sense of things, as opposed to the site side of things?
Yeah, no problem, Sean. So we're adapting a model where, as you said there, you said about the kind of the truck recognition. So they use truck recognition on sites for seeing the number of trucks coming in and out of a site. So we're adapting that to work with our modular construction units, with our modules, and kind of a number plate system, so we can track them right from being built as a frame through the factory, every process it goes through within the factory. And then we can get us timings off it, we can get us processes from it, and we can kind of see where we can either, what ways we can cut time on certain processes. And we're trying to get to the full kind of lean manufacturing way, where the building's going into the factory in one side as a frame, and it pops out the other side fully finished, up to a point of around 90% with a full M&E fit out, the roofs, the walls, everything, and it's just ready to go to site to be bolted together, and the sound of the joints filled kind of thing. That's the kind of stage we're trying to get to with it. We're using Evercam, we're using Procore, we're using all kinds of different technologies there to try and get itself digitalized as well.
Excellent. So it sounds like it's really feeding into your quality. It's all about this self-improving all the time, making sure that your processes are as lean as they can be, as you say. And I guess that technology is ideal for you.
We've had a really big buy-in as well from our kind of staff members and subcontractors, where they're wanting to see on the Evercam there from the manufacturing facility, from the yard where units are being loaded to go to site. So our project managers are sat and they can then see the units leaving from our yard coming down to site, and they can track obviously the timings of them coming in for the cranes, for the lifting. It really is, we're getting huge benefits from it.
Excellent. Okay, excellent, Mark. Thanks very much for that. And maybe I'll go over to Michael and Anna now before I refer to the chat for our first question. So Michael or Anna, whichever one of you would like to address it. I guess this digital transformation that the HSE is going through, I guess it looks very impressive. Great to see the AConnect common data environment that you're implementing. How are you finding the reaction from the design teams? I guess that you're I guess not imposing this on, but I guess if this is going to be the de facto process for engaging with the HSE going forward, how are you finding the buy-in from the various suppliers across the construction industry? Is an overall positive experience, or have you got some way that you can measure it and potentially improve it?
Yeah, well, I suppose, Sean, we're still at an early stage. We're in the pilot projects, and we've rolled out training to 2 or 3 teams at the minute. And what we're doing is, once we've rolled out the training, we're obviously following up with a couple of surveys, smart surveys, where we get feedback on the training. And I have to say, overall, at the moment, positive feedback. And one of the big ones is the standardization that it's going to bring. Because, I mean, we have design teams working all over the country for different offices. And we may do things differently at the moment. So what this is going to do is bring a bit of standardization, or a lot of standardization, to design teams that may be designing a hospital in Cork and one in Dublin and one in Donegal. Whereas heretofore, it may have been done slightly differently, and there may have been levels of frustration amongst design teams and contractors. So overwhelmingly, and not only that, but they're also seeing that this is now the way forward. That, so once they get on the wagon, they know that for the next project that they're tendering, they'll know what they're up against. They'll know exactly what the processes are. And I mean, we've been really fortunate in that we started this, I suppose, configuration around February, March time, which is just when the new national annex came out for the ISO 19650, which is, the whole new naming convention, numbering convention. So we've built that right in. So we're right up to date. So it's not as if we're moving across from past 1192, for instance, and having to change everything. So we're right up there. And I think that that has even resonated with some of the design teams around standardizing document control and that sort of stuff.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael. And maybe one last one for Anna before I go to the chat there. Anna, I guess like everyone would have heard earlier on in recent times of the cyber attack that happened, I guess, at the HSE, which when you're trying to do a digital transformation, I'm sure that was less than ideal. Could you maybe just talk to us about what effects that might have had, if any, and how maybe you might have overcome that?
Yeah, I suppose the two viruses, COVID and cyber, affected us in bad ways, obviously, but also they had some fringe benefits. With COVID, all of our teams went working remotely like everybody else's teams did as well. It suddenly highlighted the benefits of being able to access information digitally and to be able to work that way. Mm-hmm. Then you pull the plug on that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if people realized, but I suppose we were without email for 6 weeks. We couldn't actually email.
Not ideal.
Not when you're working remotely. No, it's a little bit of a challenge, to say the least. So one of the interesting things we found was, because both Darragh and Aconex are both software as a service, are both based at the web-based platforms, we were able to keep going. So because we had our own personal devices, now it's not a deal logging on to your Galaxy Samsung phone trying to do a Zoom call because your HSE device is no longer working because it's stuck in the corner with a do not touch button on it. But we were able to connect through Zoom because we couldn't use our teams. We were able to continue configuring Darragh and Aconex. We had teams working in Madrid, Dublin, Dubai, Letterkenny, Ballyhaig, and we were able to keep going because of, I suppose, what COVID did for the HSE was that it taught us that we could do pretty much anything once we worked as a team. We were able to adapt, make decisions, move on, and make the best out of it. And yeah, it's been really empowering.
Well, I think well done. Yeah, in fairness, there was some obstacle to overcome, and it sounds like you did so very well. So thanks to Michael there, and thanks, Anna. So I guess we only have one question maybe in the chat, and if there isn't any further ones after this, we might leave it at this for today. And it seems to be directed there to Ger and Darragh. So maybe Ger or Darragh, whichever you'd like to approach it. It's from Martin Moran. What are the pros in using an offsite panelized solution as opposed to more traditional methods of hot rolled steel and reinforced concrete? I guess that's the first part of the question, just the pros. And then finally, in terms of timelines for each stage of the pre-construction stages, what are the time frames for coordination and pre-con sign-off and the sign-off of the fabrication model to the product ending up on site?
A long question.
It's in the chat there. If you'd like to.
Do you want to take some of it?
Yeah,
there's two parts there, whichever you'd like to take.
Yeah, look, I'll let Ger talk about the offsite versus panelized solution versus more traditional methods, but I'll just talk about the timelines there on the stages of that pre-construction, right? So, it depends on obviously the size of the building and our size of the project that you're involved in. But let's just take a generic 4-story apartment block. It's kind of what our kind of bread and butter is at the moment: 4-story apartment or 4-story hospital. That's going to take about 8 weeks from when we get appointed, 8 to 10 weeks from we get appointed to full sign off there in the pre-construction stage. And once we get sign off of that pre-con model, so they're happy with the geometry of all the opes, the wall positions, the details and our drawings. Once they're happy with that, to get from sign off then to product on site would take 6 weeks. So then our fabrication stage kind of starts. So that's building the framing models, the fabrication hot rolled steel models, and then production in our factory facility. So that would take 6 weeks then, product on site. And then in terms of product, in terms of site timelines, I suppose you could like extrapolate that on. We have crews on site, right? Each crew is about 4 to 5 personnel. Okay, they could put up in 1 week 250 to 300 meters squared of floor area, panels on that floor area. So you're talking, 300 meters squared for one crew. We can get 2 crews working together on a site as well. In terms of housing, that reflects on, say, 3.2 houses a week is what we use. Ger, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's our latest. For one crew, we can build 3.2 houses in a week.
That sounds impressive. Yeah, that's quite a quick turnaround.
Yeah, that is, it's quite quick process. You know, the work is done behind the scenes in design. Once design is right, everything will click together and just bolt and be fully clash detected, so there'd be no problems on site. You know, if you see someone cutting out with a console cutting panels on site, something's gone wrong somewhere, and that's what we try to and we usually do avoid on all projects. So that's kind of the timeline. Jared, do you want to get into the kind of
just the first part of it? And I suppose I generalize it, I suppose, to specific. I suppose the like offsite as an industry really is incredibly important now because of what needs to be done. So offsite as opposed to just horizon, it brings numerous advantages to the building in terms of sustainability, in terms of speed, in terms of accuracy, in terms of lightweight construction, etc. And I suppose that's really what the industry needs right now. It needs the ability to be able to build very, very good, compliant, sustainable structures within a period of time. And I think that's really where the offsite industry excels, and that's what's actually needed. We also bring very, 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 very good commercial solutions, because the big thing on site is prelims, it's costs on site, it's costs of being on site. We avoid that. So commercially very attractive to developers, but really what we sell ourselves on as Horizon and the offsite is accuracy, and it's compliance, and it's basically making sure that what we tell the client he's going to get when we meet him initially, when we walk off that site, he gets it. But I think, like, as an industry, we're critical to basically to delivering what needs to be delivered, both here and in the UK and elsewhere over the coming years.
Excellent, thanks, Ger. Good insight there as to why offsite is potentially better, or at least another alternative to more traditional methods. There is one final question that's come into the panel. I'm not sure if this is one that might be able to be addressed, perhaps either to Mark or to Ger or to Darragh, but it says, could the panel discuss how difficulties in modular suppliers not designing substructure and below ground drainage can be overcome in the context of public works contractor designed contracts? So I'm not sure if that's something either of you have had experience. I guess both of your systems are coming from the point of view where you're designing the substructure only, I guess. So the superstructure or the substructure isn't something that you get involved in. Would you have anything to add to the comment that might have been made there?
Yeah.
Go on, Jeff. Sure.
Sorry. From Horizon's point of view, I suppose it doesn't tend to be. I suppose we coordinate very, very closely with the substructure designer in terms of load designs, etc. So I think from the initial stages, I think there's quite a big coordination between that design team. But other than that, it's not something that that's came up in, or it's created any issues for us not designing the substructure, but we do coordinate quite substantially with the substructure designer in making sure that whatever is going into the ground is designed specific to what's going above it.
That's it, and providing all the line loads and point loads, I guess. And Mark, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I suppose the only thing to add is I suppose the first time you work with some of the designers on this, it's a bit of a learning curve for them from their side if they're not used to the kind of modular building. But, you know, once that's explained, like Jay says, as long as you're working closely with that design team, you know, everything's fine. We don't find any issues with it. I mean, we do a full main contractor design as well, if we, you know, for people as well. So we quite often design the substructure and everything as well. So it just depends which kind of a contract it is, but we don't see any issues in it.
Okay, excellent. So I guess if there isn't any other questions, my thanks to Ronan and to Martin for those questions from the floor. I guess that brings today's proceedings to an end. So I'd just like to thank the presenters, I guess. So thanks to Ger, Darragh, Mark, Anna, and Michael. I guess hopefully that made for a very interesting session for all. And I guess that brings the session to a close. So thanks everyone for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the session.